Welcome to the Morris InterVarsity Podcast. This is episode 13. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get started.
Do you have anything else or anything else you want to speak about?
We
Anything on your heart or
yeah, I can kind of go into my DTS experience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, so like I mentioned, my mom did a DTS back like 30 years ago or something like that. So she did her DTS on like this mercy ship right outside of Sierra Leone. Um, I knew that I always wanted to do mission work. So I was like that kid who like in 5th grade was like, I'm not going to college. I'm gonna go do mission work. Like that is what I want to do with my life. And so I graduated and I found this DTS in this specific place that I was like, this is my heart. Like this fits what I want to do very well. Um, so I kind of kept it in the back of my mind, didn't tell anybody about it. Was just kind of praying about it and thinking about it. And eventually, I told my parents that I was considering doing it, and it was in Las Vegas. So, like, Sin City, pretty horrible place in a lot of ways. So my dad was very against the idea of his first daughter going going to Sin City.
Yeah.
Um, And so I spent a lot of time wrestling with that and trying to figure out like if this was something that God wanted me to do or if it was just something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um and so eventually after I graduated, I wanted to do it in the fall, but like just through I don't know, praying and like listening to other people's counsel and everything, I felt like I was supposed to wait. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait. I'll do the January one. That's fine. So I waited and I still didn't feel peace about doing it in January. So again, I waited. So I basically took an entire like gap year of just I was just working. I was living at home and I was really disappointed because like there's nothing more that I wanted to do than to go and like do mission work and like go do this DTS. And so that waiting season was really hard. Um and I was very impatient. But like it ended up being really good for my faith. Um cuz I don't know exactly what it was, but January of 2022 I was in the word more than I ever had been in my life. Like I felt like my relationship with God was different than it had ever been. Like I just felt closer to him and like I was so hungry to like read my Bible and I was just so excited to sit with God like in my quiet time. Um and I also like had gotten involved. I was like a youth leader. Um and so I don't know. It was like that season of waiting. Um God used it to grow me before I ever set foot on the mission field. And so that was a really good, I mean, it was really difficult waiting, but good time in my life in that way. And then um, it was, I think it was the end of June. I had been praying a lot about my future, and like, I felt like if I didn't go and do something, like, I was just way too restless. Like, I needed to go and do something. So, like, end of June, I was just praying a lot about where God wanted me and if He wanted me to do this DTS or not. And if, like, maybe I was supposed to go to college, even though I wanted to avoid it with everything in my being. Um, which is ironic because now I'm here. But anyway, um, so I was, yeah, just really seeking God and trying to listen and obey Him. And I finally, like, I don't know exactly what it was. Like, beginning of July, something, like, and my heart just kind of shifted, and it like felt like a release from waiting almost. Um and so I just decided to apply. So I applied, and I didn't tell my parents. I just kind of did it. And then I got accepted. I eventually like told my parents, and like my mom was happy for me. And my dad was kind of like quiet about it. Um because I think still like he hadn't warmed up to the idea of me going to Las Vegas. Um but like I decided to do it, and I was doing it. And so that was going to start like in September. And the week before I was supposed to leave, like I had my plane ticket and everything. The week before I was supposed to leave, um I got this like text in from like the staff at the Las Vegas base, and they basically told us students that there were only 3 of us, and that they had prayed and decided to move forward with the school, but like they were basically like, just so you know, it's just going to be 3 of you. um so that was kind of interesting, and I didn't know how that was going to go, cuz like here I'm going there to Las Vegas, meeting like brand new people, and there are only going to be 2 other students. So it's kind of intimidating. But I went, and like the first day, it was so weird. Like I felt like I was home. um like this place is like the complete opposite of what I grew up in. Like really big city. Um just crazy city too. And like like these strangers, like we're in the desert, there are mountains. I don't know. Everything is just different. But I like immediately felt at home, and just felt a lot of peace about what I was doing. Um, so that was really cool. And I really connected with the other 2 students, which I think was just a God thing. Um, and yeah, so I was in Las Vegas for 3 months. And that was like what they call lecture phase. So every week we had a different speaker, um, and a different topic. So we would like have class time, listen to like the speaker every day. And since we were such a small school, like it was just a classroom with the 3 of us students, and some of the staff would come sit. Like you could not hide.
Yeah.
And they asked a lot of questions too. Like most of the speakers were very question oriented. So like that challenged me a lot, because I'm naturally like quiet person, sit in the back, like never raise my hand, never talk, you know.
Yeah.
And here I am, like I'm being forced to step out of my comfort zone and answer questions, and like read aloud, and do things that go against my personality. So like I felt like I was growing so much in that area, um, as well as like boldness with talking to people about God. Um, because we would do like outreaches once or twice a week, where sometimes we'd like go out in Vegas and just talk to people about God. Like we would go to the strip and evangelize, or what we did a lot was we would babysit for foster families, cuz like my specific like track focus was orphan care. So we did a lot with foster kids. Um so like yeah, that entire like 3 months I felt like I was growing so much, because I was being pushed out of my comfort zone. So that's kind of like summary of the first part of my DTS. Um, yeah.
You can keep talking about it.
Okay. Well then, do you have any questions about Las Vegas? Actually, I don't know like what to
No, I
like
think,
describe it to people.
I mean, Las Vegas, casinos, clubs, really, everything's kind of about money, or, like indulging in the fleshly things. So, Yeah, I mean, I guess it's cool or whatever over there, but a lot of things are anti-God. Does that describe Las Vegas a little bit?
I think that describes like the shiny part of Las Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were there. Why don't you should be able to tell us about Las Vegas.
Where do I start? Um, I think like a lot of times in movies or shows or like you hear about it and it is like that, like the casinos and the
Yeah.
whatever. They have a lot of cool stuff recently. If anybody's like seen videos of the Sphere,
Oh yeah.
like it's crazy.
That is crazy.
They have a lot of like cool stuff, I
Yeah.
guess. But then like the other side of it is like there are a bunch of homeless people and um like the location that our base was in was kind of in this. I believe that it used to be the eighth most dangerous neighborhood in the US. Like that's where these
What's it called?
the neighborhood.
Yeah. So we can
It's
fact
like
check.
the this is just what I've been told, so I don't know. It's the historic West Side, I think.
I'll look it up.
But it used to be. Now it's not anymore. So when I was living there, like it wasn't.
Oh.
I mean, it was like I suppose it was dangerous in some ways, but I don't know. Actually, funny story. There was one time we, as students, like walked over to this park, like right next to the base at night, and like there were some guys playing basketball, so we like watched for a little bit, then went back. And then later on, like in the week, I think or something, there's this foster family we babysat for, and the dad was talking to us, and he like was talking about the neighborhood that we lived in, and he was like, yeah, you know that park right across the street, like don't ever go there at night. We were like, oh shoot. But nothing bad happened. I never had like any bad experiences. I was safe. But yeah, like with the homelessness thing, that was really interesting because we were right next to this thing called the rescue mission too. So a lot of homeless people I think would hang out in that area because they would like go and get food and help from this place. So I would be like sitting outside on the turf because like it's Vegas and there's no grass. Um, so I'd be sitting on the turf and like I don't know, it was like very common for some person to just come up and like talk to you through the fence. So like asking for money or food or whatever, stuff like that. Um, so that was
Like
definitely
the fence of your like facility or
yeah. So we had like this metal fence around the building,
yeah.
um, and like a courtyard. So we like kept all the cars in the courtyard like with the lock and everything because there I don't know there was a van that the base owned that like got broken into and
Oh,
whatever. There's just more crime. And so yeah, everything was fenced in. So I was like, I went to sit outside because it was nice outside and like I don't know. Or whenever I would do that, like the homeless people would just come and like talk to you through the fence a lot.
yeah.
Which actually provided a cool ministry opportunity, I guess. Because like you could just sit out there and people might like come and start talking to you through the fence.
Yeah.
And you can like offer them water and food and like
Did you
prayer.
evangelize through the fence?
Um, I don't know if I specifically evangelized. I know that other people did.
Oh,
Like
okay.
sometimes I go out there and it'd be like, oh, like one of the students or one of the staff is just like praying with a person through the fence.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just kind of became normal. Um, but yeah, there's just a lot of brokenness in Las Vegas and like the foster crisis is pretty bad too. And it's just I don't know. It's eye-opening to like see this place that's so glamorized.
Yeah.
Um, and you like look beneath the surface and it's like all of this garbage, like just horrible stuff. And it's just covered with this, I don't know, like they look so good on the outside,
Yeah.
but they're not.
Yeah, now that you mentioned the homeless people, I've actually Yeah, they do have a big homeless problem. Like some of the homeless people like live underground and stuff.
In the tunnels.
Yeah, they live in like
Yeah.
tunnels and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a place with right, there's so much money there, there's so much infrastructure. It's like, but these people are homeless. I don't know. It's like really, really sad.
Yeah.
So,
And
because
even
like
like,
there is money for them. It's not going to them, it's
yeah.
going towards everything else. So,
When it's really tricky too, like trying to figure out how to help these people because I we would we would sometimes do outreaches where we'd like pack a lunch or like pack two lunches and go find a homeless person, sit with them and like, you eat lunch together and talk.
yeah.
And like I met some who definitely were like on drugs or high or whatever. I don't know, like just not in the right mind. Um and then I also met um people who like wanted to be homeless. Like there's this one guy I talked to and he's like, why would I want to pay for a house or like have to do this or that? Like, here I'm just free. I just whatever. So it's like this false idea of freedom.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, he's like living on the streets and thinks that that's the best way to live.
I mean, he's really just being lazy,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, it is a very, yeah, not, there's a better way to live. So, I mean, especially if he doesn't know Jesus, like
Yeah.
he's really, a lot of people think they're free, right? Like, oh, I'm doing whatever I want. Like, I'm going to Vegas, I'm gambling, I'm going to the club, I'm, you know, drinking, whatever. But it's like they're really enslaved to sin. They don't know that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was really cool because the rescue mission, like they have a rehab program and everything, and we were able to go and share our testimonies there. And that was really encouraging to like see people who wanted out and were like actively trying to um be free. So that was really cool being able to share with them and then like talk to them and hear some of their stories. So there is like Vegas isn't totally hopeless like I thought.
Yeah.
There are um a lot of good people there who are doing good things. But
Well, I'm glad you went out there. I mean, it sounds cool. It sounds very interesting. So,
yeah, it was definitely a different experience, but I'm grateful for it. Some days I even miss Vegas.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it wasn't, I mean, it seemed like you had a pretty good experience. So,
Yeah.
what'd you do after Vegas?
So, in a DTS, like you have the 3 months of lecture phase, and then you do what they call 2 months of, well, I think it depends on location, 2 to 3 months of outreach, which is basically where you get assigned an outreach location. Like you don't have a say in it. Like the staff pray about it and like choose location. So our location that they chose was Guatemala, and we didn't find out until like a month before we left. It's like, I flew out to Vegas
Yeah.
not not knowing where my outreach was going to be. All I knew was that after 3 months we were going somewhere.
Yeah.
Um and so yeah, we found out that we were going to Guatemala. And honestly, I wasn't like disappointed, but I was kind of like, really? Like Guatemala? Like that's 2 countries away. Really? Like I don't go like across the world. How about like Southeast Asia or something? And so when they announced that, I was like, okay, whatever. Um, and so beginning of December of last year, we went. One staff member came with us. So it was the one girl on staff and then us three students. And so we flew down there and we stayed in 3 different locations. So the first one was Antigua, which is like a more touristy kind of area. So we were there for like a week and a half and like even though I had doubts about the country and like how much I would enjoy it, like it was honestly perfect. Like the kids working with the kids there was amazing because they were just super affectionate and like just excited to hang out with us. And the people that we met at the YWAM base there were so nice and like would invite us over for meals and things like that. Like they just value community and hospitality so much. So they immediately like made us all feel at home. And like I was just thrilled to finally be doing what I had wanted to do for so long.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, our first children's ministry, like obviously it's hard because I barely spoke any Spanish. Like I could tell people what my name was.
Yeah, yeah.
Um and so like that was really difficult for me for our first ministry. Our translator afterwards asked like how we thought it went. And I was like, well, it was good, but I just wish that I could speak their language
Yeah.
so badly. And his response like has stayed with me to this day. He said, you do speak their language, the language of love. And so like that really changed my perspective for the rest of our outreach. And like even if I couldn't speak their language, like I could still show them love. Um, yeah, so that was really cool. And water break.
So then you like went home after that?
Well, so we were in Antigua for a week and a half, and then we were in San Miguel, this more like rural area, for like a month. And that was the hardest place to be in. Like first of all, because we were like hand washing our clothes and
Oh, really?
like yeah, living the real missionary
Yeah.
life, you know. But also I believe that it was after we'd been there for a week, one of the students got sent home, and like we were super close. Like there were just three of us. We were super close.
Yeah.
And like I didn't understand the reason for it happening, and so I went through like this whole, I don't know, like just really difficult time trying to process that. And we're like doing ministry every day. We're
Yeah.
like super busy. And then this just like gets thrown at us out of nowhere. Like me and the other student who stayed, we weren't expecting it at all. Um, and it actually happened like the worst timing. Because it was December 23rd when we found out, and then like he left the next day.
Yeah.
So like he was sent home the next day. So we found out, and then he was gone, and it was Christmas Eve, and we were like supposed to be celebrating.
Yeah.
Um, and I went through like a pretty depressing week. Like it was pretty horrible. And like honestly, I think that if I was doing it in my own strength, I would have left. But like God really drew close to me in that time, I think. And he actually reminded me of a prophetic word actually. Because when I was back in Vegas, there was one day where we were having like worship, and I was sitting on the floor during this time, and then one of the guys on staff came over to me and like started praying for me, and he like put his hand on my head and like just praying for me, and I was like, this is kind of weird, like why is he talking to me?
Uh,
And basically what he said was like soon you're gonna feel like you're being crushed, but God, like there's purpose in it, and don't worry about it, and God's like going to be your friend in that time and be your comforter, and like he's saying all these things. I'm sitting there like, what do you mean? Like life is great. Like
yeah.
soon I'm gonna like feel like garbage. Like that can't be right, you know? Um and then so like a couple days after that student got sent home, I was reading through my journal and I found that because I had written it down. And like I don't know, it was like just a reminder um of God's faithfulness, and just that he was with me in that low time in my life. Um, and there's a verse that, like, in it, it says, we are hard pressed on all sides, but never crushed. And so I like held on to that promise, um, just that he was gonna get me through, um, that he had a plan, and that basically the reason that I was there doing mission work was not for myself. Like it was for God, um, for these people. Like I wanted to be a light to these people, and so I was going to continue doing what I felt I was supposed to do, you know. Um, so yeah, all that happened within like a couple weeks. It's probably 2 weeks later. I like started, I don't know, making new friends, like Guatemalan friends and everything, and like just yeah, really came out of that, um, and found joy in like doing ministry again. And so yeah, that was a really growing time for me. Um, but I definitely think that it strengthened my trust in God. Um, yeah, so we finished out our ministries there, and then spent 3 weeks in Guatemala City. Um, and while we were there, we actually did a lot of work with like kids in bad neighborhoods and that sort of thing. We met some gang members, which was wild. Um, like I think that the most impactful moment of my entire DTS happened in Guatemala City. We were doing house visits, and this Guatemalan guy who was part of YWAM in Guatemala, he like was telling us, he was describing this person to us, and he's like, okay, so he's like this gang member, he has a lot of tattoos, he's kind of big, like basically he is scary looking, and like he is in a gang and he hurts people.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go talk to him about Jesus. So that was kind of how he set it up. And so we're just all like, okay. So we met him, and he brought us into his house. Like we met his wife and his 3 kids. We kind of heard a little bit of his story, and like he he literally like broke down crying in front of us. Like we're all sitting there in his house, and he's talking to us about how he wants to accept Jesus, but he just doesn't know how to get out of the life that he's in. Um, and so he's just crying, and like we're just kind of encouraging him, and we had like a pastor there with us who was talking a lot with him. And like my heart broke for this man. And it was the weirdest thing because it's like you hear about who he is and what he's done and what he's involved in and everything. And like I don't know, like to have compassion on a person like that, I think is only like through God. Um, but like we walked away from that experience, and we were like, I've never felt the Holy Spirit so strong in my life. Like it was like he was just there, like in the room. Um, and yeah, so we had the opportunity to pray for him, which was really, really cool. Like it was an honor. Um, and yeah, like we had a couple different opportunities like that throughout our time there, and so it was really, really impactful. And one of my favorite ministries there was we would go to this kind of rough neighborhood, and like a lot of kids there or maybe like kids of gang members and stuff like that. We would go there, we'd like pile them into a van and bring them back to like the base there and do ministry with them. Like we'd do songs and like a message and crafts and stuff like that. And a couple times we actually went to their neighborhood and just like played with them in the street there. And like I think that was my favorite thing that we like consistently did. Like getting to work with those kids and being good role models to them. I think was huge. Yeah, and then so we closed out our time there, and then went back to Vegas, and we graduated. Graduated our DTS. Got cute little diplomas.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's kind of my summary.
I knew you had a lot to say. I just
Yeah.
had to get it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that seems really cool. I don't know, I've never been outside the U.S.
You should.
Hopefully soon. Hopefully one day, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Where would you go?
Where would I go?
It's at the top of the list.
Greece? I don't know. Greece, Croatia, I don't know, somewhere.
You could just backpack through Europe.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. We'll see. But so how'd you end up in Morris, Minnesota for school?
Ah, okay. So, throughout my DTS, my plan was to do this thing called the TESOL program. So basically you learn, like it's a month or a month and a half of training. And you get qualified to teach English to speakers of other languages. And so I was planning on doing that because I was like, okay, I know that like teaching is on my heart and I want to like work overseas, do something overseas, mission work, whatever, something like that. So I was really set on doing that. And because it's like a month and a half, like that's super fast. And then you can just get out into the world. Like that's what I wanted to do. And then the second to last day that I was in Guatemala, there was a guy on base there who I think he was kind of like the dad of the base. Like he just kind of looked out for everybody, and he had mentioned to us that if we weren't like fully sure of our next steps, like we could meet with him because he loves trying to like help people figure that out. So I was like, whatever, like I'll meet with you. So I sat down with him. He asked me some like random questions that related to like my personality and like experiences that I had in my life that were really important to me and things like that. And he literally just like laid me out on this whiteboard, like my personality and whatever, all this stuff, all these answers to his questions. He like organized it all on this whiteboard, and then kind of realized like that my heart was to teach and that I liked working with kids and all this other stuff. And so he asked me like, have you ever considered going to college? I was like, no, 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 I'm not doing that. Like, I don't want to do that. Absolutely not. And he was like, well, it might be a necessary evil. I was like, okay. So I kind of took what he said and was thinking about it. And like I took a picture of the whiteboard too and whatever. So he basically just got me thinking about it. And then we were in Vegas for a week after we returned from Guatemala, to like debrief and like graduate. So we had our graduation on like this Friday, and like we went through the whole program thing, and at the end everybody prayed over us, and there was a lady who came up to me and the other girl, the other student. A lady came up to us who I didn't I didn't know her super well. I definitely had not talked to her about any of the stuff that I was thinking about. And she was like, I don't know which one of you this is for, but I just feel really strongly that one of you is like thinking about doing missions and like that's the thing that you want to do, but you're supposed to go to college now. And I was like, oh, that's me. Okay, I will think about that. So, um, I mean, it makes sense to me that God would make it so clear because I was so against doing it. And I had told God before that if he ever wanted me to go to college, that he was going to have to make it really clear because I did not want to go.
Yeah.
And so she said that, blew my mind. And then I like was really processing through. So I like ended like I went back home and I was trying to figure out if that really was from God, and if that really was my next step, and if that was, then where was I going to go? What was I going to do? Like, I still didn't know if I wanted to like be an elementary education major or like an English major and then teach high school, or I really didn't know. There were so many questions. And then along with that, it's like I'm technically going into school as a junior because I did college and high school. And so like I didn't want to live in a dorm. I like all these questions, and so I was super stressed out. But I knew that my friend was going here. So I asked her like what she liked about UMM. And so she told me, and I kind of told her that I was thinking about applying. So I applied here. This was like the only school that I applied to.
Oh,
um, and this was also like in March. Yeah, March of this year. So I applied, I got accepted. Um, things just kind of lined up, and I liked it because it was like only an hour away from home. And like a small school. So I feel like a lot of the things that I don't know, wanted, like this school had, I guess. Um, and so everything worked out, and I like enrolled here and everything. And the one thing that was like stressing me out was I didn't want to have to drive to school every day,
yeah,
but I didn't know where I was gonna live because like renting alone is just super expensive, and I didn't know anybody who like needed a roommate or
yeah,
could like rent cheap to me or anything like that. So I was praying a lot about that. And I figured that I would reach out to well, there's a pastor in town. Him and his wife, like my family kind of like knows through other people a little bit. Like we've met a couple times. But I reached out to them and just asked like, hey, do you know anyone in the church or like just anyone who needs a roommate or can rent to me? And like it was kind of there were like a couple like messages back and forth, and um I was kind of giving up hope and just figured that I'd probably have to drive, but I really wanted to be part of the community here, which is why I didn't want to drive.
yeah,
um and then it was like beginning of August, so classes are starting soon and I don't have a place to live yet. And um so um this lady texted me and she's like, I like there is an option. So I called and I talked to her and she was like, we didn't find we couldn't find anyone who needed a roommate or, like nothing really worked out. But we have a room in our house and there's a bathroom right next to it that you could like rent cheaply from us. So I kind of thought about it for a couple days, and like as I was like preparing to like either accept or decline, there was one night that I was like laying in my bed talking to God, and just kind of like about all of the things I was stressed out about. I was like, I don't have a bed frame, because at this point I was like on a bunk bed in my sister's room because like after I left, my brother took over my room, and so like coming back after my DTS, I really didn't have my own space. So like I didn't have a bed frame. I didn't have my own like dresser. Like I shared that with like other people in my family. And I didn't have like a desk. I basically didn't have anything to like furnish a room. And so like I was just talking to God about that and like how I was kind of stressed and needed to get stuff together. Um and then the next time that like me and this lady called and I told her that I was going to accept her offer um to like live in their house and rent from them. um she started describing the room to me, and she was like, yeah, there's like a built-in desk in the corner, and then she said that there was like a built-in bookshelf too, and it had like drawers in it. um and then she also added on that like they apparently had this queen size bed that they had borrowed out to somebody, and like um the person had given it back or something, and so like she was offering this queen size bed to me too. So it was like every single thing that I had been stressed out about and thought that I was gonna like have to go out of my way to find and get and prepare in the coming weeks, like God had totally taken care of. So that just kind of blew my mind that like even in the little things, God was so faithful in providing for me. Yeah, so I like moved in and like have been getting to know the family, and that's been really cool. So
And now you're in Morris, so elementary ed, right?
yep, elementary education degree and or major, and I'm hoping to use it overseas because I still feel like I'm called to missions in some way, but we'll see.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for tuning into episode 13 of the Morris InterVarsity Podcast. Jesus loves you.